Sit as you will upon that carrion throne, O God Emperor of mine, O Raven King, as you sit there and you wish upon your children some form of hope, some form of joy. Know this, I know now that McDonald's do takeaways and deliveries. You have no power over me. With all that being said, hi everybody. Welcome to the Fluffenhammer. Roll the music!
Not every man truly dies.
Hi. Not sure where that one came from. That was a mishmash of lots of stuff.
That is basically the stuff that's in my head at any time.
Switching from profundity to banality and then back again in the same instance. I like that.
As we know, we have Marlette, the Chaos God
of
of
course.
Banality.
Such is life.
It is.
I had a friend once, and he pointed out very poetically that that's what life is like. You go from these moments of incredible revelation and transcendence and personal change to these moments of pettiness and petulance and myopia. You're like sometimes in the same heartbeat.
Yeah, I was going to say sometimes it's just that's how your lunch break goes, isn't it?
It is. It's exactly that. Anyway, hi guys, it's the Fluffenhammer.
Hi everybody, I'm Adam. This is George. We're here to tell you about things that you didn't know that you really wanted to know about.
Oh, although at this point probably do know about. We're just going to waffle about them. We're just going to waffle about them. Again, I know every single time we come to do one of these shows, we talk about it, but they're releasing so much so quickly.
They are.
Right now.
Yeah. But before we get into the pit...
yes,
sorry.
The mire.
Yeah.
It's just a mire at the moment, isn't there? There's so much crap out there right now.
It is somewhat ridiculous. There's a couple of things I want to quickly gloss over. There's a couple of things I want to get into before we get into the show itself.
Of course.
So, you may have noticed, ladies and gentlemen, or should I go for an old Crypt Keeper one? You may have noticed, ghouls and boys. Sorry, I've been watching a lot of Tales from the Crypt Keeper recently. It makes me very happy. You may have noticed that we haven't been around much recently. One of the reasons for that is I've been basically digging out a studio, which I'm going to have to do some photos of when I've got it tidy again, because it's a bit of a mess in here at the moment because a lot of stuff's happened. But it's quite cool because I've got glass cabinets up with miniatures in. I've got a great big table behind me for both doing proper tabletop gaming on, which we'll be doing photos of things and campaigns. Also, it's really good for doing a tabletop RPG.
Of course.
Speaking of which, I'm going to take this point now to announce that the Fluffenhammer is getting a second show. Are you ready? Are you strapped in? The second show is called The Old World Order. It is going to be an actual play using the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th edition rules from Cubicle. Mm-hmm. What I've done is I've built a TV series because I'm an idiot. And I've adapted the entirety of The Enemy Within. Also using a lot of Old Hammer tropes in order to get this to work. So The Enemy Within, for those of you who don't know, was the original Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay big story. It was the massive...
from a long time ago.
Well, it took 8 years from start to finish. So with that idea in mind, I've built this thing into seasons. What I want to do, though, is I want to get about 10 episodes recorded before I start releasing it. So far, we have the first episode recorded, we have the first 2 episodes of the series itself recorded, and we have a feedback episode for the Patreon recorded.
Brilliance.
That's a lot of content.
Yeah.
So that's going to start getting released weekly, hopefully in September.
Oh, that's superb.
Now, the reason I'm bringing this up here is because you people out there, the listeners, and George, you've got something to do with it here as well. If you find this successful, if you enjoy it, please go to the Patreon, because one of the Patreon rewards will be that you get to take part in the story. You guys get to push the story in different ways.
Oh, that's brilliant.
This ranges from, if you are a $1 to $5 contributor, a Patreon, you can tell us the crits and fumbles that are going to happen. So when somebody rolls a crit, when someone rolls a fumble, it's you who tells us what happens.
What actually happens. So they do the narrative part.
They give us the narrative. Oh,
yeah. That's going to be fun.
Oh, yeah.
I can't wait to see what comes out of that.
I've got a collection of no less than 40 crits and fumbles so far. So this is quite good. But also, you guys are going to be able to give us feedback and tell us where you think the story's going, what you want the story to do, characters that you might want to say, actually, I've had this RPG character in the past. Is there any way that he can turn up as a bit character or something? You know, that's all stuff that I want to do. I want to get you guys involved. If this is a success, then I'm going to look at doing another one, and me and George have discussed this in the past, using the Age of Sigmar rules when they come out online.
Ooh, yes. Now that could be a lot of fun. That could be a lot of fun. I mean, if it proves massively successful, maybe we could even branch out into D&D and other stuff. You know?
Yeah, there's every opportunity to do stuff like that.
I would be really happy to write a D&D campaign for the Fluffenhammer, I can tell you. I'd be very, very happy to do that.
You know, I think that if we do these things in seasons, we can kind of have them rolling around. And I think that's going to be quite a lot of fun. But let's not count our chickens before they hatch. Yeah, for some reason I thought I had that wrong for a second. I'm not entirely sure why. Let's not count our chickens before they burn cities to the ground. Oh no, it's not a chicken, it's a chimera. Oh no.
I thought you were going to mix your proverbs, so it's going to be like, let's not count our chickens before they're in the hand, or something like that, you know?
Let's not count our hands before the chicken takes the early worm. Yeah. Yeah.
God, the whole meaning and emphasis changes completely, doesn't it?
It really does.
God, that's confusing.
So, if the sound for this episode sounds a little bit squiffy, that's why I am still embedding a lot of the studio systems in place. Trust me when I say that when this is finished, it should be fantastic. We should have an absolutely wonderful base to be able to do a lot of work from.
Brilliant.
So yeah, that's all going on. Also, part of the mechanics that I've added to the 4th edition of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay involves pogs.
Okay.
These pogs will be going up for sale in the first week of September.
God, we're getting very 1990s.
Oh, you have no idea.
Very 1990s indeed.
I do say may, have sourced a company that could make global hypercolor shirts. I'm not kidding.
Oh God, I don't know why the theme seems to have been the 1990s recently. I did a podcast with my friend Kit Power about Marilyn Manson recently. It just seems to be the theme.
Good old Brian.
Yeah.
I do love a bit of Brian Warner, I does.
So do I.
And then, even now to this day, I know we are way off track here, but even now to this day, I have a tendency of wandering around the house just going, "A beautiful people, a beautiful people."
Yeah. It's the drugs don't work for me.
Well, actually, it's...
Or rather, I don't like the drugs. The drugs don't work is the verb.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's a difference between industrial shock and schlock to just downtrodden. But the drugs don't work. They just make it. Beautiful people, the beautiful people. Actually,
we're definitely mixing and matching genres here.
The one
but not eras, funnily enough. It's about the same era.
Actually, speaking of the 90s, do you listen to Voxcast at all, fella?
I do. I like the Voxcast rather a lot.
Have you listened to the last one?
Which one was it? Which one was that?
Oh, that's a very good question. The man's name I had it in my head literally a second ago. And as is always the way, it has now vanished into the void. It's fallen
into the ether.
Into the
I
abyss.
don't think I did watch the last one. I've got it saved on my watch later list.
And of course, here's me thinking, you know what, I'm going to be really, really sneaky and I'm just going to grab it and I'm going to tell you who it is. But of course, I can't find it now.
No, of course not.
So that's, it wasn't Andy Hall, was it? Might have been Andy Hall. Anyhow, one of the things he was talking about, how Games Workshop had a golden age in the 90s. And how a lot of people are saying that this is like what they're going through now is reminiscent of that golden age of the 90s.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I would argue that it's actually quite a lot better at the moment than it was in the 1990s.
One of the things he said, and this resonated so strongly with me, he doesn't want to replicate what happened in the 90s.
Of course not.
He wants to replicate what you thought was happening in the 90s.
Yes, that's it, isn't it? It's like trying to recall. You're not trying to recall the event. You're trying to evoke the memory, the delusion of the event.
Exactly.
Because as I think we may have even discussed this a number of times. Maybe not on the Fluffenhammer, but like, I mean, ladies and gents, if you go and read any psychological study into the nature of memory, any one of them, what you'll find is memory doesn't do what you think it does.
No, I mean,
it's a fantasy. It's more fantasy than it is a record, basically.
Yeah.
So like, childhood memories, like teenage and childhood memories, are the worst for this, by all accounts. We romanticize them, we embellish them. So like, that's kind of what they're trying to evoke at the moment, isn't it? With this whole nostalgia craze where they're recreating old miniatures, where they're subtly referencing them. Mm-hmm. They're trying to evoke the ethos, the feeling, not the event or the situation itself.
Yeah, they're not retreading old ground. What they're doing is getting the smell and the taste of it right.
That's it. It's clever. It's clever.
It's what I did when I did my I was going to start talking about my education there. I'll look into that. No.
Then suddenly you get that feeling, don't you? That sort of old depression and anxiety comes back.
Yeah, I will talk about that. But I wrote a paper on memory, and it was called the Glass Bottle. And the Glass Bottle is, there was a guy, I'll do this very, very quickly, I promise. Mm-hmm. There was a guy in the 60s and 70s who played football in an American school. And after playing the game, he would say his favourite part of it was he would go with the team and sit on the bleachers and drink Coke from glass bottles.
Yes.
Flash forward 15, 20 years, and he was told, actually, no, that never happened. We weren't allowed glass bottles on the bleachers. But I've got this really strong memory of it. What it is, what he worked out was, it's the taste of Coke plus the memory of sunshine plus the memory of glass bottles got merged together. Because when you retrieve a memory, you retrieve the last time you retrieved a memory. Yeah. And what Games Workshop are doing here is they are retrieving the memory with all of the parts attached. So it's not retrieving, here is the one-to-one scale memory, here is the memory, but it's got the taste, the feel, the smell that all connects to it.
They're actually trying to evoke the elaboration, aren't they? It's like, it's very like when you look at childhood toys or something like that, your memory of them is much more elaborate and much more impressive than the actual artifact, the item. It's kind of like the notion of the hyperreal, isn't it? It's postmodern philosophy. It's very, what you're recalling is a simulacra.
Yes,
it's not the actual item in any legitimacy, really.
No, it's
a simulacra. It's an exaggeration of the original item.
Mm-hmm. It's an animus, for want of a better term. Do you know? Oh, crikey! What the hell's it called? Do you know of the? There's a myth where a memory can take shape and form and gain its own life. Dybbuk, the Dybbuk.
The Dybbuk, yeah.
So that's basically what they're doing here. They're attaching themselves to the zeitgeist. Time ghost. They're attaching themselves to... Sorry, I always find the word zeitgeist hilarious because the direct translation is time ghost.
Time ghost,
they're attaching themselves to the Dybbuk of the time and thus being able to build from there. And I think that's fascinating. And there is no better jumping off point than that, because what we're going to do for this episode is we're going to talk about the stuff that we've missed over the last few weeks. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff to cover, but they've been rampant.
Games Workshop have been rampant over the last month or so.
Well, should we really hit it home first then with the thing that's attaching itself to the Time Ghost of the Time?
Yeah,
which,
why
by
not?
the way, is going to be the name of my next jazz album. The Battle Sisters bulletin.
The Battle Sisters, they are just, they're drip feeding, aren't they? But it's the drip feed. It's not a drip anymore. It's starting to become a flood. It's starting to become a torrent.
Yeah.
We're starting to see these characters again, and I tell you, I mean, I'm really liking what they're doing with them at the moment.
Do you know what I think's brilliant? Right?
What's that?
Have you seen the Repenter?
I love that. I love it.
The Repenter she is so cracked. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
You know what? There was some complaint about it, wasn't there? I understand.
Yeah.
So I understand there was some little backlash about it because, and I'm not quite sure why. I'm not quite sure where the complaints were coming from because she looks like what she is.
Yeah, she's an old mother of the church.
She's an old mother of the church. She's sort of haggard, and she has that slightly masochistic thing going on.
Yep.
And this is something, as I believe we've discussed before, that I was hoping they'd really emphasize in this new version of the Battle Sisters. In the background, the Sisters of Battle, the Adeptus Sororitas, they burn themselves, they scar themselves, they cut themselves. They have these sort of elaborate tattoos and scarifications all over their bodies as markings of their faith. That's part of what they're like. It's part of where their strength comes from. You know, it's part of their background, and I'm hoping that they really go for that with some of the new miniatures. And this character certainly demonstrates it.
Oh, sorry.
Bless you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Blessings of the Emperor.
Blessings of Nurgle.
You won't find me saying that very much, I can tell you.
In
fact, that may be the first time I've invoked the Emperor ever. Jesus.
I also quite like the way you said that. The first time you've invoked the Emperor, Jesus.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a whole other kettle of fish.
Yeah, let's not get into that one. Let's not get into that.
I mean, just very briefly, we know that he wasn't.
No, he was not.
There was a rumour around at one time that he may have been. That may have been one of his incarnations, but we know that he wasn't. Although, we know that he was present.
Yeah, he was one of the apostles, wasn't he?
He was probably one of the apostles, yeah. We just don't know.
Joe would make me really happy if at some point there's a short story gets dropped and we find out that he was actually Longinus. That would make me so happy.
That would be really interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah, of course it would. And it would
that
fit
would be
with everything that
fascinating.
the Emperor ever did.
That would be fascinating, actually. You know, considering stuff like the Last Church and all of that, it would all tie together.
It would. It also enter a very interesting area when you get to the myth of the Spear of Longinus.
Oh, yes.
So, there's stuff there to play with, and I don't spend my time thinking about this when I can't sleep, staring at the ceiling, wondering if the Emperor was Longinus. Oh, honest, governor. But yeah, I'm really liking everything that the Sisters of Battle are looking like.
Oh, they're going to be big. I mean, they're building them up to be huge. So
Yes.
I'm imagining that they're going to be one of the new strain of codices that we know are coming out now. They're moving on from sort of 8.1 to 8.2 now, it seems. We know that they're changing the formats of the codices. So I'm imagining this is going to be one of the benchmark codices for the new format.
Yes.
Which means it's probably going to be huge. It's probably going to be full of detail that we haven't seen before. Because they are a little bit underdeveloped, the Sisters of Battle, compared to, say, like the Space Marines or the Chaos Space Marines or the Eldir, you know, the established forces.
Yeah,
They've only ever had, like, one or two codices in the entire history?
They had one,
yeah.
And they had a sort of codex with witch hunters, I think it was, or demon hunters, one of the two.
Yeah.
I think it must have been witch hunters.
Yeah.
But we won't talk too much about
that
one.
Yeah.
But what I find really interesting is the stuff that's also happening behind the scenes here. Like, for example, the Rhino I think the Rhino and the Predator have both come off the website. They're no longer for sale on GW.
Oh, that's interesting.
But we know that there is a Sisters of Battle Rhino coming.
Okay.
So, is it that there is a brand new Rhino, or is it that the infantry, the Space Marine infantry, is getting shunted over to the Sisters of Battle?
It's quite possible. It's quite possible, yeah. I mean, maybe what they're going to do is introduce like a new chassis for the Rhino. I mean,
Possible.
it wouldn't be before time, would it? I mean, this one's quite old now.
Yeah, that thing's about 15 years old at this point.
It's quite old, isn't it? I mean, it still looks fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but it is pretty damn old now.
Well, it's the biggest problem you've got with it is that some of the Primaris lieutenants are actually taller than it. So
they're a little bit too big to fit in it now, aren't they?
It's I was at my local GW a couple of weeks ago. Doing what I normally do, which is just go in and just hang out and talk to the guys there. And there was a guy who had a Rhino, a proper Rhino as it was, with a Primaris coming out the hatch.
No.
And you're looking at it, and it looks like a clown car. It's ridiculous. I loved it so much.
Yeah. Doesn't really work with the Primaris, does it?
I didn't care. It was so much fun.
So funny.
It looked like something that came out of Quake 2. You know, it was just so good.
But I know what you mean. Maybe they're going to use that chassis for the Sisters of Battle stuff.
I think so.
That would make a great deal of sense, actually. I mean, it just needs a little bit of embellishment, doesn't it, to make it work? It needs like a few icons and some braziers and whatnot to make it work.
I think you just add a bit of mutability to it, and problems are good. But yeah, it doesn't really work with Primaris. But we know that the Primaris are getting loads of new vehicles.
They're gonna go nuts, aren't they? I think they really are pushing the Primaris big style at the moment.
Of course they are. Is there an argument to be made that it's very unfair for people who have run old style Space Marines for many, many years? Yes, I think there is a discussion that could be had there. Unfortunately, it all kind of falls apart when you think this is a company. The company has to do business, and business has to be looking forward constantly.
Yeah, and I think at this point, retiring the old Space Marines isn't necessarily a negative thing.
No,
just slowly moving them on a little bit. Not necessarily a negative thing.
No,
I mean, if push comes to shove, it's not that big a deal. It can be overcome, and not only that. I mean, one of the things I do like about the shift from the traditional Space Marines, and don't get me wrong, I don't think if they won't phase them out.
No, there will always be rules for them.
Yeah,
just
they won't
no
phase
new minis.
them out.
It's simple as
that. It will be as simple as that. So you'll still be able to use them. That will be fine. Yeah. But it makes a lot of sense for me on a hobby scale as well, because the Space Marines, they've been the same for so long.
Yes, well, I mean, they got their the big update in 93, I want to say.
Yeah.
And then they got the multi-part kit in 95. My years might be slightly off, but it's around about then.
But
so you
in
had
terms of
RTB01.
base design, in terms of like what they are in the background, they've always been pretty much the same. They've been the same for a long, long time. Moving them on in that regard is not a bad thing. No. And clearly that's what they're intending. I mean, you look at all of the... Marneus was the first one to cross the Rubicon Primaris,
Yep.
And as we know from the up-and-coming new Space Marine Codex, there's lots of other characters who are now doing the same thing.
How nice do those white scars look?
Yeah, they look great. They really do. Interesting choice for one of the first chapters.
Well, I like it because it's not one of the obvious ones.
It's not. I mean, that is really interesting. And I'm now wondering, because, I mean, first of all, let's have a look at the new format. I mean, this is what we were talking about before, ladies and gentlemen. There's an up-and-coming Space Marine Codex, so 2.0, 8th edition 2.0 for the Space Marines. And they've changed the format, which is not necessarily a bad thing at all. So what you've got is the base codex, which has got all the units, all the background and all that, all the gubbins in it, basically. Then, rather than having endless releases of new codexes that have the same units in them, but with, little tweaks and whatnot, they're releasing add-ons. So you're going to get a specific appendix codex for each of the chapters, including the really divergent ones. So now, I mean, this is one of the good things about this. It's going to be a great leveler. You are not going to have the situation where, there's a new Dark Angels Codex which has loads of new things and updates that the core Space Marine Codex doesn't have. Or you're not going to have like an old Blood Angels Codex that doesn't have all the shiny new stuff that's in the new Space Marine Codex, yeah?
Yeah.
They're all going to be leveled off. They're all going to have access to the same base units, but with very important differences and their own units and their own background, even their own psychic disciplines, which I think is a great thing.
It is.
That's brilliant. I mean, it just blows it wide open. It means that the core codex is going to be very mutable. You're going to be able to make loads, potentially infinite different Space Marine chapters from this codex.
Yes. Well, it's part of the idea, isn't it? It's that you can now go off and make your own chapter without just ripping another chapter off and changing the colour scheme.
Yes, they did do this before. They did it in the Space Marine Codex 5.0, I think it was. And it wasn't... The only reason it didn't work is because it wasn't balanced. It wasn't well done. The reason it wasn't well done is because back then, they were going through this thing where none of the codices had an established format.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Each of them was their own thing. So you had the Space Marine Codex where you could create your own chapters by applying chapter traits, basically, a combination of chapter traits, which is what you can do in this new codex by all accounts. But none of the other codexes did it.
No.
So Space Marines were just flat out better. Their format was better than all of the others. My feeling with this is that this is going to be the 2.0 format going forward. So my guess is the next codex that comes out will be the Chaos Space Marines, yeah?
Yes.
And they'll have exactly the same.
Yes.
So
Makes
you're going to
sense.
get... Yeah, of course it does. Of course it makes perfect sense. So you'll get your base Chaos Space Marine Codex. Then you'll get Codex Death Guard, Codex Black Legion, Codex Word Bearers, Codex World Eaters, and so on and so forth. Just as you're getting here, Codex Iron Hands, Codex Ultramarines, Codex Blood Angels. I think it's pretty good. As long as they apply the same format to all of the other codices, not only will it be balanced, will it work, but it means that suddenly the doors are blown off. Suddenly, you can cobble together your own, just an infinite range of your own chapters, your own Drakari Cabals, your own Homunculi Covens, your own Tyranid Swarms, your Gene Stealer cults, you know? You can go to absolute town with this new system.
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea. I think there are a couple of places where it's going to fall down.
It will be abusable. There will be elements of it that are abusable, and you're going to get power gamers who probably immediately hone in on like the most powerful combination of traits and go nuts with it, you know? Yeah. But that's down, really, to be honest, that's down to the level of community, isn't it?
It is.
That's down to the level of culture and saying, look, you know, in certain areas, this like tournament situations and whatnot, this min-maxing thing is fine. But on a domestic level, I'm probably not going to play against that because it's silly, you know?
Yeah, not my interest at all.
But on a role-playing, a narrative level, this is awesome.
It is. It really is. Here's where I get really excited and really interested. And after almost a year of saying, right, I cannot do 40k, AOS has all of my attention. Warcry came out, and I'll come to Warcry shortly. I've gone all in for Warcry. I love Warcry, and I'll get to that in a minute. What this has done is it's opened up some really interesting ideas for me. I might be wrong about this, but if I'm right, then I'm getting really excited. First up, Orcs. This means that the doors are open there for all the old Orc clans to be their own thing again. Tyranids. Does this mean that we're going to get to the different hive fleets, and each hive fleet's going to have its own range of creatures and mutations and gribblies?
Quite likely.
Gene Stealer Cult, that's going to be a strange one for me because there isn't a huge amount of difference between them yet. Done correctly, what you'd get is something really interesting. Different Gene Stealer cults rising on different worlds, completely changing the style and look of each.
Yeah.
And that's stuff that gets my interest right there.
Potential is huge, isn't it? The role-playing potential is just ridiculous. And that's what I love about the game. You know, that format just appeals to me on any number of levels. Because I'm not like a competitive player, I don't even really care that much about the abusability of it.
No.
I'll be honest, it's not a concern of mine. It really isn't, because I don't care. It's just not a bother for me. Again, as long as it's not too nonsense, you know? And the thing is, they respond so well these days. They're so keyed in to what's happening on a game-playing level. If it is too abusable, they'll fix it.
Yeah.
They'll just zero in and change something about it. So it's fine. And not only, I mean, have you seen some of the new minis for the new characters and whatnot?
Yes.
You know, the new Primaris characters, Tigurius and the like.
That name is beautiful.
Tigurius, yeah.
That name just conjures up old Rogue Trader for me.
Yeah,
It really
Tigurius
does.
is great. He is very cool, I've got to say.
I do apologise, got a bit of a frog in my throat there.
I just cannot wait to see what they do now. I cannot wait to see what they do. There's so much potential here.
Yeah.
There's so much potential. When they released the Adeptus Sororitas, the different what do they call their different? Are they the different
Orders,
churches or the different
orders?
orders?
Yeah.
The different orders you could make,
Well,
all of whom have slightly different beliefs and slightly different like regimens and structures and iconography.
Well, the fact is that means that you'll be able to run a full Bloody Rose.
Yeah.
And the Bloody Rose are what fascinates me about... It's everything that fascinates me about the Sisters of Battle. The idea that there are... they are completely attached to the church. Their belief is the church.
Yep.
And the rest of the Imperium can burn.
Can just burn to hell.
Yeah.
They don't care. Yeah, it's about the faith, isn't it?
Exactly, and
It's about the faith and nothing else. Nothing's going to save humanity. Nothing else matters. You can suffer and die. That's fine as long as you have faith. Yeah, it's like it is. They make like the worst fundamentalists of the most extremist creed in all of human history look like woolly liberals, don't they?
Yeah, it's children in
really
the sandpit
do.
compared to them. And that's one of the things that fascinates me. Yeah, the idea that faith through pain, stuff like that.
It's extremely dark.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
extremely dark. I like it very much, though, I've got to say.
Well, it's the type of narrative hook that something like this needs, and
it
grabs you and drags you along with it.
Well, it makes them interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It makes them more than just sort of like female space marines, which, of course, they are in danger of becoming.
I mean, that's what they always skirted back in the day.
Yeah. Because they share so much of the imagery and even so much of like the stat lines and the rules, you know? So, yeah, it's a way of making them interesting.
I just got really excited.
What's that?
What was the old comic from Warhammer Inferno about the Sister of
Demonofuge.
Aye. Oh, God, can you imagine if they brought that back out in hardback or something?
They probably will. I mean, now, it wouldn't surprise me if they reprinted it to coincide with the new Sisters of Battle.
Oh, because
that wouldn't surprise me in the least.
That book was gorgeous.
They are doing a lot of... I mean, did you see some of the new made-to-order stuff not too long ago?
Oh, the Empire
they
stuff.
Actually... Well, there was the Empire stuff, which is great, but they also released the Chaos Sorcerers from
Oh, yes, all that.
Those minis, those are the, like, they are classic.
There's so much character in those things.
They are so classic. And you know what? They stand up pretty well.
Yeah.
They're not too bad. I ordered one of them. I ordered the one with the sort of slightly bovine skull.
Yes.
Because that's my favourite, and the sword.
Yeah.
That one works really, really, really well in a present day setting. I'm going to fit him amongst my Thousand Sons, and he'll be fine.
Yeah, I love those things.
Me too.
I mean, I was going back through my collection of White Dwarfs last weekend. I think it was last weekend. And looking back through some of the stuff and sort of having these weird flashbacks to at the time I was working for Co-op. As a Saturday job, and just sitting there before my going down to start my shift and just reading through them, and one of them had the multi-kit Chaos Space Marines coming out.
Yeah.
And I just instantly flashed back to that, and this was then later on in the day I looked up at that and saw these Chaos Sorcerers coming out. Nostalgia overload. I'm just dancing.
Yeah. I mean, they even, like, the pictures they've used on the websites are the same pictures from the heavy metal pages from the second Ed Chaos Codex. Same colour schemes and everything.
Shall we jump over to something else I really want to talk about?
Of course.
I really want to talk about Warcry, but I'm going to save that till last.
Yeah, that's a big one, Warcry.
When I start talking, I'm not going to stop.
It's a big one.
I'm going to jump over to the Warhammer community, and I shared this into the group as well.
Mm.
Have you seen the Silvernesh? Ricky Smith's Silvernesh army.
I was looking at that page. That army is everything that makes me like want to stay involved in this hobby.
Yeah.
Is in that army, It's the creativity, it's the narrative element, the way they've taken like the standard format of the Hedonites of Slanesh and introduced the Sylvaneth elements.
Yeah.
Into not just their imagery, but the background. So each miniature is a little narrative in and of itself. It's a little set piece.
Yeah,
it's very clever. It's very bloody
absolutely gorgeous. And I mean, I've gone back to this maybe 3 or 4 times now and just stared at it all, going through all the different bits. It's incredible what this guy's done, what Ricky Smith has done. If anybody out there knows Ricky Smith, I would love to get him on to talk about this army. Because
it is brilliant. I mean, I've just clicked back onto it.
Yeah, I've reopened it again myself.
It is lovely. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful army with such an interesting take on the standard Hedonites.
Yeah.
Beautiful color scheme too. The color scheme is very, very muted and very natural.
Yeah.
Which of course suits the influence, the sort of Sylvaneth influence on the army. It's a stunning bit of work, I've got to say. But this is the kind of thing that got me back in originally.
Yes.
It was looking at army blogs where people had done wild and interesting things with the standard format. So rather than just going for out of the kit, this is the way it is, I painted it like they are in the Codex or in the Battle Tome, and that's it. They've taken it and thought, so what story can I tell?
Mm-hmm.
I love that. That's what keeps me anchored in the hobby. That's what really drives me forward and makes me want to keep making my own stuff.
I don't know if you spend much time looking at the Ink 28 stuff. If you know what that is.
No.
Right.
No.
Ink 28 is the. It started off with. Do you remember the old Inquisitor game?
Yeah. Oh, the bigger scale one.
Yeah. So many years ago, it got scaled down to normal 40k style.
Did it?
Yeah.
I did not know
officially.
That.
It wasn't official.
Right.
So a lot of people worked on doing this, and it gained a lot of things. It's what the Blanchitsu stuff's been in White Dwarf.
Right.
That's
that stuff.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, but that's a whole area of the hobby
frigging good.
I came into. I found about maybe 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and I spend a lot of time there. And then a guy did a rule set called Hinterlands, which is a cross between AOS and Ink 28.
Right.
So it's all skirmish stuff.
Right.
And because of that, I've got really into the idea of just playing skirmish games set in AOS. So you do small scale, narrative driven, huge conversions. So you don't have just normal, the normal out of the box stuff. You are just building everything from scratch up almost.
Yeah, you're just using the bits basically.
Yeah. In full blown Blanchitsu, and some of the stuff that I have found there is incredible, and I do really, really, really want to start writing articles on it because I think this stuff is amazing. And then a lot of the guys who work on it now are doing I think it's 4 times a year magazine called 28.
Right. Okay.
Which I've shared out all over the place because these guys are amazing and they deserve to get as much coverage as they can get. Oh God, it's absolutely incredible. And then I was scanning through. This stuff's in my head, this Sylvaneth stuff, and then I came across something I found years ago, which is a Urglu elf army, skirmisher,
okay.
And it's all swamp based and dead animal skulls and instead of like having Sylvaneth, it's just swamp matting around these creatures. It's absolutely beautiful.
So it's dark.
Oh, well, that's one of the ideas about the 28 Ink 28 stuff is that it is dark. It is grim as hell. And I was looking at it, it's like, well, that's just a load of dead animals just inside swamp matter with legs sticking out.
Brilliant.
I'm all in for that.
Yeah, totally.
So I'm very much under the idea that this is something that I really want to give a go at. I want to have a go at this Age of Sigmar Dark Ink 28 stuff.
I like the sound of that very much.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very much indeed. And it's something they're practically encouraging these days, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
They seem to be going out of their way with the battle tomes, with the codices, just to encourage you to go nuts, basically. Convert, go mental, making your own versions of these armies.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've seen stuff with the Kharadron Overlords, which has just been incredible. Like, using like 40k parts to make the Kharadron Overlords, really sort of broken down gears and cogs and wires everywhere. Really good stuff. Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you want to quickly jump onto?
Oh, let's have a look. Well, I mean, very briefly, I actually did a brief video about this on my own channel, but we have had, of course, the Chaos Knights. We've had the Chaos Knights released, which is really interesting. Very, very interesting. A bit of a surprise, actually.
Yeah.
Because they've always sort of treated the Chaos Knights like they are an add-on to the Imperial Knights. It's sort of like a get-you-by list. It's been an index list and nothing else. Mm-hmm. The new Codex is anything but. It is full-fledged, proper Chaos Knights, and it's a fantastic bit of work. It really, really is. They've gone out of their way to make them interesting, make them narrative. You've got like two different types of Chaos Knights now, which I really love. You've got this distinction between renegade Chaos Knights, who are Chaos Knights that still retain something of their own personalities, but they're just against the Imperium. So they have they don't bow to any authority, basically. They're kind of like pirates, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then you have the Infernal Households. And the Infernal Households are what people have been clamouring for, basically. They're the old-fashioned, hyper-mutated, warp-saturated, demon-possessed, fleshy Chaos Knights. Gribblies, that's what they are. They're proper Gribblies. It's lots of fun. It's a really cool sort of. I mean, it is an add-on codex. It's kind of like you can take them as your if you want. One of the things I love about the codex more than anything, just like the Imperial Knights, is that if your time is limited and you just want an army that's got like 1 or 2 or 3 miniatures in it, this is the codex for you. Because that's all you require. They're big miniatures, but
huge.
You only need. Yeah, they're massive. But you only need. I mean, in some instances, only one. And it's the equivalent of an army. So you only need to work on one thing. It's very clever, very economical in that regard, time-wise, anyway. And I like that very much. But as an add-on to the Chaos Forces, they're even better. They're just expanding out massively. And what they also suggest, what it seems to suggest to me, along with a lot of other stuff, is that we're getting a Dark Mechanicum army list somewhere.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt.
Very soon.
I think there'll be the Adeptus Mechanicus army, and then there'll be a Dark Mechanicus add-on for it.
Oh, something like that.
I think that's very much what's going to happen.
Because, I mean, almost a lot of the new releases for Chaos over the last several months have been Dark Mechanicus oriented.
They have, actually, yeah.
You've got the Lord Discordant on the back of his demon engine. You've got the new Obliterators. You've got the Chaos Titans. It's, yes, I believe that is due.
One of the things that fascinates me about how this is all going to work out is what you're going to end up with is a lot of parts, a lot of pieces, and I would love to see what people are going to do. Just start collecting Adeptus Mechanicus, start collecting Dark Mechanicus, throw it together. What do you get?
What do you get? I mean, the fun thing about both of those armies really is that you can go a bit nuts with them. You can create the most interesting biomechanical monstrosities, like HR Giga levels of nightmarishness.
Oh, speaking of which, sorry, jumped on that because I got excited. So I was looking at I was reading a thread. I won't say exactly where it was, but I was reading a thread, and there was a lot of real positivity coming out of it.
Excellent.
Which is always a good thing.
That's always nice.
And one of the things that someone said is, at this point in time, I wouldn't be surprised if there was an Adeptus, Adeptus...
Mechanicus?
No. Balologus.
Oh, Adeptus Biologus.
Biologus,
yeah.
that's the one. Thank you.
Oh God, that would be fascinating. Oh my God, that would be so interesting.
That has played in my head ever since I read it. I'd forgot about it and just remembered there.
Oh my God, because they've never. I mean, they do exist. We've heard about them before. We've read snippets about them, but they've never had like a presence.
No. But imagine that. Imagine something like that. A little add-on codex.
The terraformers and the people who the institutions that like terraform planets and that change their atmospheres and that change the nature of their soils and whatnot so that they're conducive to human life. Yeah, I mean that would be so fascinating.
It really would. It really would. I
would love to see, and you can see the miniatures in your head, can't you?
I
can see them.
Yeah.
These little they're going to look a lot like Nurgle miniatures, aren't they? They're going to be like these really sort of hyper-adapted, semi-human things that have got like machines and alembics all over them that are bubbling with all sorts of chemical matter and like combinations of spores and stuff like that, you know? That's what they're going to be like, isn't it?
Yeah.
And sprouting with like fungi and plants and things. Yeah, I mean, and it would be such an interesting take on the Imperium because you don't see it that often.
No, you don't.
It's all industrial, isn't it?
I don't think you'd see a full army list for it, but I think like an add-on codex for something you could put into an Imperial Guard army.
Yeah, or the Adeptus Mechanicus. They could use the Adeptus Mechanicus army list, just slightly adapt it. You know, that would be lots of fun. Yeah, I'd like to see that.
To move on, I've got something that's going to make you really happy, George.
Oh, hey! What's that?
Sorry, I wasn't expecting that noise out of you at all. It kind of threw me.
It was a preemptive excitement, that was.
So, I don't know, did you read any of the novella series when they hit?
Which ones? Which ones are we talking?
So I think it was last year, they did a collection of novellas, quite small books, and I got most of them, and for the majority of them, they're pretty damn good. Yeah. So they've announced that there's going to be another series later on this year.
Okay.
I'm going to read you some of the titles.
Okay.
Because there's something that happens here, which I quite like.
Okay.
So, you've got Iron Resolve by Steve Lyons, which is going to be a tale of the Mordian Iron Guard against Orcs.
Oh, the Mordians! I used to like them way back when. Way back when.
So that's pretty good. Okay. Wreck and Ruin by Daniel Ware, which is going to be the Sisters of Battle. All right.
Okay.
Aisha's Lament, which is going to be set on a Blackstone fortress.
Interesting.
Okay. Severed by Nate Crowley, which is going to be all about Necrons.
Okay.
It's from the perspective of the Necrons.
Okay.
Lords of the Storm, which is going to be some Reavers, some Fulminator chapter Reavers. All right. Okay. Code of the Skies, Caradron Overlords, Measure of Iron, the Iron Golems from Warcry.
Oh, I like them.
Thief's Paradise, which is going to be about a thieving elf.
No.
From Shyish.
Okay.
Low Lives, which is a Necromunda. And then the one that really grabbed my attention, The Colonel's Monograph, a Warhammer horror novella.
Okay.
The Colonel's Monograph. Does that not just make you think of M.R. James?
It
the
does.
Colonel's Monograph.
I mean, M.R. James is one of the many horror writers they've sort of tried to evoke in Warhammer horror, and quite successfully, I've got to say. Interesting.
The Colonel's Monograph.
My guess is they're gonna go nuts with the Warhammer horror around Halloween time.
I think so. Yeah.
That's when you'll see some very special stuff being released. So that's cool.
It's I just had to get across the fact that the name was The Colonel's Monograph.
The Colonel's Monograph is a great title.
I love it. I love it so much.
It is very cool. It's very Victorian, isn't it? It's very sort of turn of the century.
It is. Oh, it makes me so happy.
One of the other things that we know is going to happen but hasn't happened yet is we've had the statement that there's going to be a big event in Warhammer 40k, which is going to be the equivalent of the not the Necroquake but the Endless Spells and all of that stuff.
Malign Sorcery.
Malign Sorcery. So essentially, we don't know much about it, but we know that it involves the much heralded psychic awakening of humanity and probably the rest of the universe as well. I mean, in technical terms, it's going to be endless spells in 40k.
It is,
isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah.
I mean, that's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
But for me, what I find fascinating, beyond that fact, I mean, that's interesting in and of itself, but what I do find fascinating about that is what it portends in background terms. So this is going to be a big step forward. The notion of the rates of humanity's psychic efflorescence escalating, that's been part of the background for years.
Yes.
But we really haven't seen much evidence of it.
Well, we've seen nothing of it, to be honest.
Not in the game, anyway. No. Not in the game. So what does this mean for the wider universe? Does this mean that the bounds between the universe and the warp really are breaking down now? Because if this is happening, if you're getting like this greater efflorescence of psychic activity, there's going to be way more demons. They're going to be able to walk much more freely. Which is bad news for pretty much everyone but the Chaos Forces.
I've got a theory. I've got a theory that it's... well, let's put it this way. We know that there is a race out there that has a tendency to try to crack open the warp, especially when a god is born. We know that there is a race out there who, as I said before, they crack open the warp when a god is born, who have a nascent god ready to be born.
They do. Do
you think this is going to be the Eldari god of death waking up?
Oh, that would be interesting. So we're going to see a little bit more of the Incarn and all of that stuff. Yeah, I mean, they are due a comeback, aren't they?
Yeah,
the Inari. They're kind of due a comeback because they've been sort of flitting around the background for a while.
They have, yeah. And I think this is going to be them becoming ascendant. This is the Eldari making their stand, returning.
Interesting. That's very interesting because, you know, the Inari are not necessarily representative of the rest of the Eldari.
They're not, no.
A lot of the Eldari don't like them.
No. And do you know something? I freaking love them.
I like that too. I think it's great. I think it's really interesting. A lot of the sort of more traditionalist Eldari really, 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 really hate them. I mean, to the point whereby, like, Eldrad was exiled from Ulthwé. I mean, whoever saw that coming?
Yeah, I mean, that's a massive change in his
backstory. He was Ulthwé.
Yeah.
He was Ulthwé. I mean, for how long has he been, like, the figurehead of Ulthwé? Forever and ever and ever, since Ulthwé was a concept. Now, not anymore.
No, and I think that's where the Eldari get to become interesting again, because there's no nice way of putting it. We look at the history of the Eldari and the Eldar, and they have been space elves for a long, long time. No matter what Games Workshop's done with them, they've never really escaped that trapping.
That sort of that stigma's been with them, hasn't it?
Yeah, massively so. So the god of the dead, making them almost... See, this is what interests me about them. And it would have been very easy to go down the path of necromancy with them, or something akin to that, but they're not. It's the more souls you've got with you, the more in tune with your god you are, the more power you are given.
They've got a much bigger... a broader scope, haven't they?
Yeah.
I mean, what they're actually... They are kind of nihilists in a way. What they're trying to do is bring about the end of everything.
Yes.
Because they believe that's the only way of giving their god true birth, and thereby annihilating Slaanesh, you know, or at least presenting a combatant to Slaanesh. It's the whole Thanos and Eros thing, you know, Thanatos and Eros. That's what it is. But to do that, in order to do that, they need to bring about a race-wide apocalypse.
Yeah.
They need all of the Eldari to die. All of them, like at once.
Yeah, they have to wipe themselves out in a cataclysmic affair in order to survive.
Yeah, to become
it's really
one.
weird. Yeah,
That's what they're doing. They're becoming one within the body of the Incarn, within the god of death, Inead. You know, I mean, one of the things I love about the criticisms of the Inari, which has a fair bit of weight, I've got to say, is that they may not be doing what they think they're doing.
Yes.
They may have been deceived.
May. Yeah, well, that's one of the things that makes them really interesting to me as well. That it's the route of the zealot. You know, the path of the zealot is one where there is blind faith and no questioning, and that's exactly what they've done.
I mean, don't get me wrong. At this point, they probably have no choice. I mean, the Eldari have one of two choices. It seems to me they can either go for broke with something really big and potentially insane, like summoning Inead from the ether, or they can just dwindle into eventual extinction.
Yeah.
They don't really have much choice in the matter.
No, there is no in between on that one, is there? They either vanish or they die. That's your choices.
Not counting the Drukhari, by the way, because the Drukhari are fine.
Oh yeah. They'll be absolutely fine.
The Drukhari are absolutely fine. They're in their own spa in the webway. They've already got plans for surviving the death of the universe. So they'll be fine. It's the rest of them that you've got to worry about. But I wonder, are we actually going to see, when we do get the new Azuyani Craftworld Codex, will we then see new Exodites? Will we see the Exodites at last?
I think so.
We must see the Exodites. I mean, they haven't never had a dedicated army list.
No.
They had a sort of get-you-by one in the second Ed Codex.
Yeah, and I think White Dwarf published a version of it at one point as well, for 4th or 5th edition, I can't remember.
Way back when.
Yeah, a long time ago now. But no, they've never really had anything, and they are one of the ones that people really clamour for.
Well, it's a license to print money.
Yes.
It's big sort of Roger Dean science fiction nonsense with aliens riding techno-enhanced dinosaurs and dragons and stuff. I mean, it's potentially brilliant. And potentially amazing.
And if they did that, and if they actually brought out that codex, the first thing I would be doing is working out how I would make it into a Slan army so I could have Dino Riders.
Of course. That is the first thing everyone's going to think of, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dino Riders, of course. It's a no-brainer for me. I've got to say, it's a license to print money.
Yeah.
If they did an Exodite list with a dedicated miniatures range, people would go nuts.
I don't even think you need to have a dedicated miniatures range. I think 1 or 2 miniatures, and then you just say, well, you get yourself some
Ideneth, bits and pieces like that.
Yeah, you get yourself some lizard men monsters. Problem solved.
Jobs are good.
Some cold ones. Here we go. Problem solved. And I can see it happening. It would be a bit of a cheeky way of doing it that way, but I can see it happening that way because it doesn't cost very much, and you just throw it out into the world and let people go nuts.
Maybe I dreamed this, I don't know, but didn't I see at some point that we're getting a Free People's book?
Yes, the
AOS.
The Cities of Sigmar. I was going to come to that. That should be out actually end of this month.
Oh, we were talking about this, weren't we? That's something that obviously they should be doing. Brilliance. Absolute brilliance. Cannot wait to see.
Did I tell you I got the new Sylvaneth book?
Oh, no, is it good?
It's so good.
I thought it would be.
You know how we discussed that the way that the Sylvaneth need to go is really lean into that Fey idea. That, stealing the children in the middle of the night idea.
The whole sort of De Elconic thing, basically.
Really sort of just start chomping down on that old,
old-fashioned
proto-Celtic and proto-Germanic myth.
Yeah, sort of like, old Germanic folk tales, the Brothers Grimm, that kind of thing.
Well, even before that, the Nomanic stuff like that, get right down into it. Well, they did it.
Hey, I thought they would. They've been slowly, darkening the tone of the Sylvaneth for the longest time.
Oh, good lord, some of those I don't have it near me at the moment, or else I'd read you some of the parts out of it.
Yeah.
But there's like entire forest groves of corrupted Sylvaneth. By corrupted, I don't mean that that Chaos has corrupted them. They've corrupted themselves. They have put themselves into this circular existence where the grove must be the most important thing, and everything that comes near it must die. We must kill everything that comes near the grove. Everything must die. It's a constant evolution of extremism.
Wow.
And they are incredible. What they were when everything started off being tree elves, that's out of the window.
It's out.
They
it's
are
gone,
alien.
isn't it?
They are unknowable. They are so very wrong.
Yeah, I like that. I like that
they,
very much.
They are natural in the true sense of nature. They are completely unnatural to the idea of humanity.
So they're amoral, they don't
Totally.
have any notion of morality beyond the survivalist.
Yeah, they are a fantasy version of Doomsday Preppers. They are truly, truly fantastic, and I am well up for more of this.
Brilliance, absolute brilliance. Yeah, the more the better. I mean, I will be getting every battle tome that comes out, quite frankly. And this is the first time I've ever resolved to do that.
Yeah, the stuff that's been coming out since Soul Wars hit has been alarmingly good.
Just been, every single one's been a hit.
Yeah,
every single one, and they've gone above and beyond with each one as well.
And each one's been as good as it is for different reasons, and that's the thing that fascinates me. The Skaven book is nothing like the Beasts of Chaos book. Is nothing like the Sylvaneth book. I'm actually really excited for the Free Cities.
Me too,
book, because that is going to be showing you what the ground level is in these cities. Stuff like cog forts. Right, if we do not get a model of a cog fort in the next 3 years, I am going to cry havoc and let loose the dogs of war, because I want a cog fort. The AOS version of Titans, the Skaven get the parasite engines, these great big clanking monstrosities. The lizardmen can have the giant dragon creatures, and
or even like moving idols, or something like that. Very cool.
I want to see these things. I want to see the AOS version of Titans.
Well, I don't see why not now.
No, there's no reason.
They're in the background. These big monsters and engines and things are in the background. Yeah. So why not?
I mean, granted, don't get me wrong. I understand full well that we're not going to get a fully fledged cog fort, because that's a walking city.
It'd be too big, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But some kind of turret or walking castle wall, that
for the disciples of Zeech, a kit that works both in 40k and in AOS, a silver tower.
Yeah, of course.
Why not?
That'd be perfect.
Why not?
Yeah, like a turret from the silver tower wandering around. Yeah. But mostly I just want Skaven parasite engines, because I love the idea of parasite engines. They're just so ick.
Yeah, Contagion Plague engines again works both in AOS and in 40k.
Yeah, totally. You could go through them all. But speaking of AOS,
yes,
I'm going to get into it a little bit, and then I'm going to get into it a little bit when we do the Patreon show as well. And then we'll call this one, once I've said this, Warcry.
Warcry. Really interesting.
Warcry.
Really fascinating.
Has hit every single itch I didn't know I had.
Oh, people are going nuts.
Yeah, it's the game mechanics are so good.
I can see this becoming one of the big tier games, maybe sort of like the second tier game systems where there are consistent articles about it, in White Dwarf and whatnot.
Yeah. Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. This is how good Warcry is, right? I've tried playing AOS with Abby. Mm-hmm. She loses interest quite quickly. Yeah. We played Talisman. She loves Talisman. She absolutely loves it to bits. Tried Kill Team. She just lost interest almost instantly with Kill Team. We've tried Shadespire. She likes it, but it doesn't really get her interest.
No.
So I've tried multiple things. Warcry, we've played 4 games to completion.
Yeah.
She loves it because it's so simple, but you have to think about what it is you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that she loves about it is not a house rule as such, but the beasts. You can get the beasts to join your force.
Yeah.
And they become bacon beasts, apparently, where you just feed a monster enough bacon and it'll join you. So, that's what's happening here. So, on top of that, the miniatures are gorgeous.
Yeah, the miniatures are amazing. That they've eked out so many different aesthetics from what are essentially chaos tribes.
Yeah.
Really clever.
And do you know what's even better?
Really clever.
The smart idea of releasing the card packs. So I've got the Iron Jaws card pack and the Flesh Eater Courts card pack.
Yep.
I'm going to be buying some Flesh Eater Court stuff to make a Warcry band out of them.
To make a Warcry band, yeah.
I'm going to probably work through and get a Bone Splitters one. Yeah, every card pack there is, I'm probably going to get one to make another one, just so I've got more things to pick from to get more games of it.
Yeah, it's clever. It's clever stuff. And the actual miniatures they've released for Warcry are some of the best they've ever done.
Oh, the Iron Golems are gorgeous. But
the Iron Golems are lovely. Which are those ones that are from Sheesh, the Realm of Death, that are like all corrupted and twisted?
Corvus, I think they're called.
No, not the Corvus. Those are the Raven-like ones.
Yeah, they're the Corvus Cabal.
I mean, the ones that are all about pain. And
chopping off limbs.
What are they called? I love them, with the hooks and the sort of distorted limbs and what. I love them.
Unmade. The Unmade.
The Unmade,
yeah,
that's it.
Corvus are the Raven people. The Splintered Fang are the Snake people.
That's it.
Oh, the Snake people. They're...
Yeah, they are. They're brilliant. I mean, they're absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, I know we haven't touched about the stuff that's coming out for Necromunda, which, seeing the Enforcers has been really good. But Warcry has scratched, as I say, it scratched every itch I didn't know I had.
Yeah.
I mean, am I going to get one of each of the forces? Yes. Without a shadow of a doubt. Am I going to get two of some of them? Yes, because
probably.
I've got conversion ideas coming out the wazoo. It ties into that Ink 28 thing I was talking about earlier on.
Yep.
Looking at the Unmade, there's stuff that's happening in those where I can see how to make things that I've always wanted to see. Mm-hmm. That dark, grim part of Warhammer that's always been the thing that pulled me in.
Oh yeah, I mean they've got like a Cenobite thing going on, haven't they? So you can sort of pull bits and pieces apart and then suture bits. You know what would make really good conversion bases for the Unmade? Homunculi. Exactly
what I was thinking. Yeah, that
homunculi and racks and whatnot would be absolute. Mandrakes would be great.
I mean, there's the Splintered Fang. Yeah, I'm considering the idea of getting the Medusae and giving them all snake legs.
Of course, the ones that literally chuck snakes at their enemies.
You see, right, and I know that we share a love of this. How much? Masters of the Universe 2002, did those things remind you of?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. There is that element about them. Yes, they've gone for a certain aesthetic that is slightly like retro with them.
Yeah.
But works.
It works so well.
It's simultaneously retro and new. It's very clever. It's very clever.
Which, of course, had also brought up the idea of, can I make a warband that basically does the old 2002 Masters of the Universe series? Because I love that series so much. And
you go for sort of like the Snake Men or something like that.
Well, I think making a Snake Men and then making like a Man at Arms and stuff like that as well.
Yeah. Very possible. Very possible. There's lots of potential here. I can see Warcry being very popular amongst modelers as well as gamers.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think what they've managed to do with Warcry is just knock it so far out the park that you can't see the ball anymore.
Yeah.
It is probably the best release they've ever done.
I just love, the thing that appeals to me more than anything, beyond the game or anything else, is this notion that not all of, the different tribes are the same.
No, nowhere near.
They're different.
Yeah.
They emphasize different ideologies, different cultures, different traditions. They're not all frothing chaos madmen,
No.
They're different. They regard chaos in a multifarious ways, and they have their own legitimate cultures. I love that.
Because what we're seeing here is the ground level of AOS. And it was the issue. I mean, we talked about this way back when we started doing this. That AOS, although great in its with what it did, what we both missed was that ground level, the stuff that how do people live, and it started with City of Secrets, and it's just continuously barreled since then. And this is what I want.
It just keeps building now.
Yeah.
It just keeps building. I mean, as I believe we mentioned in maybe the last episode, that 2.0 core background book is such a good read.
Yeah.
People who don't like AOS, go and read that book. I guarantee you'll find something. I guarantee you will, because it's just so interesting. It's so evocative. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Is there anything else you want to bring up, George? Or shall we close down the main show?
As it stands, I think that's almost it. I think we've covered most of the bases. I mean, just to reiterate the imminent release of the new Space Marines. Again, bit of a surprise.
Oh yeah, big time.
Bit of a surprise. I was not expecting it to happen. I really wasn't. But clearly, we're moving into a new era now. Of 8th Ed 40k. We're moving into a new era. And I think it's a case of watch this space. I think there's going to be some big stuff happening.
I do as well. I think what we're going to see out of this is 40k's evolution.
Yeah.
The jump from the jump from 7th to 8th was a massive one. And this is the continuation of that jump. This is this is them hitting the landing now.
Yeah, I think this is them where, okay, they 8th Ed has been out for a while, things are established, now it's time to build.
Yeah.
It's time to change what can be changed, to move on, to experiment a bit. And I couldn't be happier about that, you know, I really couldn't. Anything that makes them more interesting, anything that brings more into the field, as it were, and that moves them on.
Yeah, totally.
Anything that moves them on is good. You know?
Yeah, I agree.
We're all so tired of reading the same snippets of background in the codices.
Well, yeah, I mean, how many times have you read about the Horus and Emperor fighting now?
Yeah.
And there's only one version of it that's worth it, and that's the old Bill King one.
Although that may be redundant very soon.
Yes, as we're getting closer now.
We're getting closer. I've just finished Solar Wars, by the way.
How is it?
Sets up a lot.
Yeah.
It's good. I mean, it's very good. It's very much. It's not. I would say it's not a story in and of itself. It's rather. It's a setup book. It's setting up the situation in the solar system, basically, and bringing in lots of different factors. It's bringing them all together and establishing where they are.
Yeah.
What they're doing.
Makes sense.
And the scale is huge. I mean, the scale is just ridiculous, because it's not just one war on one planet anymore.
No.
It's multiple wars across every planet in the solar system. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. One of the things I do like, which it establishes, is how, because the Chaos Forces have mastery of the warp and the Chaos Gods are helping them, they just appear. They're just there, all of them, at once. They just appear on the periphery of the solar system. And it's like, oh shit. You suddenly have the massed forces of chaos, and it's just apocalyptic, you know? It's quite cool.
I am going to wait until it's done.
That's probably a good idea.
And then I'm going to go nuts with it, I think.
Although, I mean, one thing I would call out for, I want to appeal for, Chris Wright, if you're out there, another Lords of Silence, please.
That book was amazing. Yeah.
More.
Yeah. Lords of Silence is absolutely astonishingly good.
Yeah, I reread it. I reread it recently, so I'm going to do a review for the Fluffenhammer. It's the equivalent. You know John French's Araman books?
Yeah.
Which is some of my favourite books ever in the Black from the Black Library. It's the equivalent of them.
Yeah.
But for the Death Guard.
Oh,
it just gets the subject matter. It just gets it.
I'm just having flashbacks to some of the parts of that book and just shuddering.
Yeah, it's horrible, isn't it?
So, shall we get out of here? Unless, of course, you're a Patreon subscriber, and then you're going to get another another little bit of talking afterwards.
Another dose.
Yes.
Woo.
Ma. So, George, where can people find you if they wish to hunt you down like the most dangerous game?
Well, you can find me on the Exaggerated Elegy channel on YouTube. You can find me at Enigmatic Elegy on Twitter. You can also find me at strangeplaygrounds.com, where you can find all of my published fiction and whatnot. And a lot of my stuff is available on Amazon as well. So if you do fancy going and being monstrously disturbed, go and find me.
I don't really have much to pimp out because I've been just so busy behind the scenes with this stuff. But if you would like to get some of my artwork, it's all up on Redbubble. Just search for A.D. Nickel on Redbubble, and all of my art's up there for sale. Please buy some. I've got a baby on the way.
Yes, of course.
Please. I need money. Oh God. So yes, with all that being said, we'll get out of here unless you're a patron subscriber, and we shall see you next time. Goodbye.
We will. Bye-bye.
Must be stopped, no matter the cost.
I pray for something strange to come along. Everything just seems to stay the same.
mountain.